Welcome to the latest episode of From Isolation to Inspiration. This podcast is conceived so that Bernardo, Moya and I can meet with motivational leaders to get a fresh perspective on the current state of the world, all whilst learning and laughing. We attempt to unpack the underlying psychology and humour of hugely successful people. Our guest on this edition of From Isolation to Inspiration is best-selling author on health, addiction and juicing. Known as the Juice Master, he is a health mentor to global superstars, and his immense, vibrant energy makes the Duracell bunny look a little lethargic. For over 20 years, he's pioneered the world of juicing across the globe and is a complete force of nature. Jason Vale, welcome to From Isolation to Inspiration. How are you?
I'm embarrassingly well, but I tell you what, I love that title. I love the Isolation to Inspiration. I tell you, I bet that took a little while. Were you inspired? Was it like 3 a.m? You went, hang on.
That's where I always have my best ideas, Jason.
Can I just say, though, whenever you hear anybody in this field, essentially, and they've had an idea, there's one particular one who's very well known in this field, who, when he come up with one particular set of ideas that he teaches phenomenally well. He said, I was in the shower and I was writing in the shower. I got a pen and paper and I was dripping and you go, really? Was you really? I'm unsure you were, so they never seem to just get this inspiration from, do you know, I was just kicking my heels over dinner, to be honest.
and Jason, I got to add that the last time Paul had a great idea was 1983. Okay, so this is a blur. Okay,
that's good. I thought it was 1982, so that's good. I got the year wrong.
Yeah, it was when I was 7. Thanks for asking.
Actually, that's a good point, Paul. When were you born?
I was born on September the 18th. Ask me what year. Every year.
Yeah, always. So you've done there. You see, do you know what? The old ones are the best. I do love Bob Monkhouse.
Oh, do you know what? I worked with Bob Monkhouse, and part of From Isolation to Inspiration is to bring some lightness into the world of our viewers and listeners, because everything is so heavy. How are you coping with the news bombarding us?
Well, I'm really fortunate because we all have a choice, weirdly. And those listening to this obviously are exercising their choice of opportunity in terms of what they listen or hear or listen to or watch. I always say your life is a direct result of what you feed yourself. People automatically assume that I'm talking about nutrition, and I'm not. I'm talking about what goes into your eyes, what goes into your ears, what goes into your spirit, and of course, what goes into your mouth. But it's a direct result of what you feed yourself. So at any given point, we can either turn on, CNN, constant negative news, or we can turn on, Good Morning Britain or whatever the case is, whatever the country you're in, or Sky News. Their viewing figures have gone through the roof. There are people now watching the news, God knows how many hours every single day. And it's on a loop anyway. Nothing much changes. You get the headline and then you kind of get the gist of what's going on the day. That's kind of all you need. Has anything changed? Has any restrictions been lifted? No? Okay, I'll move on. And then you don't need to bombard yourself with it for the rest of the day. There is no need to be on Twitter. there is, and if you are on Twitter and you're only getting it for your news or whatever the case is, there's no need to read comments. I think that's where the vileness is when it comes to social media. Instagram tends to be quite a nice place, whereas Twitter tends to be quite evil. Somebody said to me the other day, what about TikTok? I said, what am I, 5? I don't know, do I? Right? So we all have a choice. And I think and those listening now are obviously making a very conscious choice that actually I want to feed myself something fairly inspirational. So when I do get out of isolation, and there's no reason why you can't be inspired within, not after isolation. Like you said, it's from isolation to inspiration. But I know so many people in isolation as being inspired in a way that they would never have been inspired unless, ironically, this isolation happened.
Well, thank you, Jason. And I think one of the things that Paul and I, we've obviously kind of been doing with a lot of either the Facebook Lives or the interviews that we've been doing with a lot of guests that are, people in the personal, professional growth industry or, successful, inspiring entrepreneurs is about reframing the situation that we have and in people taking advantage of what we have, because in many cases, although I think we both agree that we disagree with a lot of things that are being done and how they're being done, kind of like trying to keep us closed in for so long can only happen for a limited period of time before people go absolutely insane. But the idea is to use this time wisely in either, learning new things or reinventing themselves or starting a new career. Now you've obviously, you've had quite a few jobs in your earlier life, before you became who you are today. But, I think this is a time to maybe explore that, isn't it? What do you think?
I think it is. I think it's also easier said than done. And I tell you why I think, now normally I wouldn't say that. I feel like turning your lemons into lemonade, there's always opportunity, which there is. I do, however, feel that if you are in lockdown and you happen to be in Southeast London and you're on the 14th floor of a tower block and you have 5 children and it's warm and you have no air conditioning and you're there with a partner that actually before lockdown you were going to finish with but actually didn't get round to it and now you're regretting that decision heavily, or whatever the case is, and you're really feeling it, beyond feeling it, in fact, most of your day is around either home tutoring your children, trying to actually keep them disciplined in some way, not arguing perhaps with the person that you love, even though I joked around about the finishing with them, but even those that you love. I mean, being 24 hours cooped up with anybody is a challenge, no matter who they are. It could be your best friend, could be your partner, could be anybody. So it's very easy, I suppose, for people like us, in a position where we are used to taking ourselves away in our own space in order to be creative, whether it's writing a book or whether it's doing some talks or whether it's writing talks or whatever. A lot of people aren't in the space that we're in, of course. And so they're in a space where they're used to either manual labor or they're used to going into job, whatever. So, and there's also an air. It's a funny air because although people thought, as soon as lockdown happened, I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to eat well. I'm going to do this. Actually, the opposite happened to most. I think it's changing now. We're 5 weeks into lockdown here in Spain. In the UK, 3.5 weeks into lockdown there. This is the time of recording this. And I think things are changing now, but especially at first, people, although they had those intentions, there's an air. It's indescribable air of, it's almost this feeling of, I don't know what's going to happen. There's been a huge amount of fear mongering, clearly. I don't know what's going to happen. So there's been a lot of, excuse my language, but a lot of, fuck it, I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I'm going to go and eat a load of chocolate and drink my weight in wine. That's what I'm going to do. And there's been a lot of that going on. And there's nothing wrong. The point is, I can understand the psychology of that. I think it's, especially if you haven't worked your positive muscle for a long time, you haven't had to. So somebody's not into personal development or they're not into emotional intelligence or whatever the case is, they don't necessarily know the tools that they can just fall back on. And so therefore their default is, well, what's on Netflix? What box set have I got to watch now? What YouTube channels can I watch? What this, and they're very used to watching somebody doing a fitness video, as they sit down and munch on some chocolate, in the same way that most people that own cookery books actually buy takeaways, because that's what we're very good at buying this. In fact, actually, there's a great stat that actually in the UK, they buy twice as many cookery books than anywhere else in Europe, but have twice as many takeaways. So it's, and that's because we're very good at thinking we're doing something good for ourselves, but actually the actual process of doing it becomes slightly harder. However, 3-5 weeks into lockdown, there is a massive change happening. And I think that what's happening is that people are understanding the premise of people like Paul that are coming out with things like this, of actually from, locking down to actually let's have some inspiration when we get out. Because at the end of the day, the vast majority of us are going to come out of this, right? The vast majority. In comparison to 7 billion people on Earth, the amount of people that will sadly and tragically lose their lives because of this, every life is huge. Don't misread what I'm saying, but in comparative to 7 billion people on planet, the vast majority clearly will come out the other side. So there is another side. So those that say, well, I might as well do this because I can get run over by a bus next week. That's fine. But what are you going to do when the bus doesn't come along and actually you still look and feel like that? So actually what we're looking to do is, what can we do now? Just small, tiny steps. And I don't want to sound patronizing either. I'm very aware that, I used to be listening to this stuff and whatever else, and I don't want to patronize it, but most people can think for themselves. Most people are pretty smart, obviously. And the whole premise of things like this, I'm guessing, is to say, look, actually, what can you do even remotely? If you've been drinking tons of alcohol, just look, why don't you do 3 days without? Because after 72 hours, you've got a whole different form of momentum. Chances are you won't want to do it again. And you can't get mental clarity until you stop the alcohol anyway. And then you go, well, actually, if you're numbing yourself with food, because it's so intrinsically linked, physical health and mental health, you can't distinguish between the two. And I call it physical strength and mental strength. I don't ever use the word mental health. I don't really... I think the whole connotation of mental health is negative. I don't know why. Well, you don't say somebody, how's your physical health today? It's a very strange concept. If you I don't know, knock your foot and you've injured your foot, you don't say, I'm in terrible physical health today. I mean, you don't use that analogy. You know it's going to repair, and that's good. In the same way that you might be feeling mentally down in a day. That doesn't mean you have a mental health issue. It just means that you have one of those days where effectively mentally you've stubbed your toe. And that's and so you might be having some of those days, but the way to lift yourself from those is, like I said, listening to podcasts like Paul's or whatever the case is, or just stop feeding your mind and your ears with all of that negativity and saying, is there's one thing, what would I want to have achieved by the time I get out of lockdown? For some people, I'd love to be 10 pounds lighter. I know it sounds very arbitrary and very shallow, but actually that isn't shallow. For many people, that is huge. For many people, not being able to wear what they want when they want, feeling lethargic, not being able to play with their children. So a throwaway comment like just 10 pounds lighter might not seem like much for some. It's the difference between night and day. It's the difference between happiness and actually getting into a rut. So if you want to do that, if that is your goal and you want to be 10 pounds lighter than you were, then what have I got to do today in order to make that happen? Is it small steps or is it big steps? Do I want to have, enrich my kind of language skills? So I'm going to try and learn a new language, even if it's just 1 hour a day. You're just you're working your mental muscle. Physical, is it work? Because those people say, why don't you just work out inside? You can't go outside, why don't you just work out inside? Because they've never been to a flat on the 18th floor of a tower block with 5 kids. They don't know that you can't just put on Joe Wicks and start doing it. So there's a fundamental difference there. So I've gone on a monologue. I apologize.
No. Listen, you came back to it and kind of like, I think well, from what a lot of what I've read and my experience is, to change a habit, you start small. You can't reach your 100 push-ups. You start with 5. And
it's too overwhelming. It's too overwhelming. I mean, I'm writing a book right now. I mean, I'm using this time to write a book, you see. At first, like everybody else, I was peed off. And then I went, okay, ask yourself a better question. Because it only comes down to ask yourself better questions. So I said, what can I do that's not going to drive me cuckoo while I'm here? In fact, actually, what can I do that would potentially benefit my family and others by the time I get out? So, I'm writing a book so that, at the end of the day, that keeps you focused. But the point is, I forgot. I haven't written a book for like 3 years or whatever it is. And you forget. It's not easy to write a book. I don't care how many times you've done it.
We all know that one.
And you just go, yeah, but do you know what's frustrating, Paul? Every time, for those that listen, anybody listening that goes, I'm going to write a book, right? Fair play, brilliant, right? Here's what to do. Get a title and just write it down. Even if you come back with it and you change it. Put it in big, bold, put it on the first page. And then what you want to do is that you want to write at least 1 sentence a day. You go, I can do more than that. Fine, do more than that. But you just make sure you write a sentence. In 3 years' time, you'll have a book. You do a page a day. Wow, less than a year, you'll have a book. And you just do this thing where you go, I don't look at the big picture because it will start driving you mad because you think you'll never, ever. And by the way, if you think you're never going to finish a book, and Paul and so will Bernardo say the same thing, you never will finish a book because by the time it goes to print, you'd want to change so much of it, or it's never good enough, or you want to do. I mean, trust me, it's never finished. Is that right, Paul? What do you think, Bernardo?
Let me say 2 things that you brought up there, which are brilliant, and I think our listeners will really enjoy. One of them, you mentioned questions, which of course is the title of Bernardo's book, The Question. Ask yourself good questions, and that is what it takes, is to ask yourself. And the other thing is chunking things down to manageable things. I was executive coaching somebody recently, and just sort of going through, and he said, I really want to learn Italian. And I said, okay, well, then just, do you have 15 minutes a day? He goes, I've got much more than that. I said, no, that's not what I asked you. Do you have 15 minutes? Just do 15. And he kept on going, no, I can do more. I said, I don't want you to do more. I want you to do 15 minutes a day. When
I hope you punched
it?
him, Paul. No, he's getting on my nerves already.
Yeah. No, but that's the whole point, is that if you set these huge targets of like, no, I can do more. No, just do 15 minutes. And I thought, Jason, that was brilliant because it's like, right.
But also, Paul, do you know, But Paul, do you know what? Sometimes people say, and I do it with their weight. I mean, my main business is obviously weight and health and everything else. So when somebody says, they go, do you know, and they look at somebody on the beach, they look at somebody's body, or they look at somebody walking down the street, or they see somebody with energy or whatever, and they go, do you know what? I'd do anything to get a body like that. And I always point out, except the actual things that you need to do to get it, you mean? Do you know what I mean? So when you say I'll do anything, apart from eat well and exercise. I forgot about that bit. I won't do that. It's like you man, I'll do anything to learn Italian. Really, anything? You mean like actually do? Well, no, not anything. I mean, I don't mean like actually learn it. I mean, I just want to say it. I want to say I'll do anything. And we're all guilty. The reason why people sometimes relate to what I'm saying is because I relate to it, because no one's perfect. I do the same thing. I look and think, I'll do anything to learn. I'm in Spain. I don't even speak Spanish. I mean, what's wrong with me? You know, so it's like, and every day I think I say, do you know what? I'd love to learn Spanish. Well, then do it, Jace.
It is said that we live in a world our questions create. And it's true. Those that have succeeded in life, those that stand out, those that have made a difference, those that are inventing, those that are exploring, pushing the boundaries of reality are based on those that have asked themselves empowering questions. In my new book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose, I help you find your true purpose, find your legacy. For more information, go to www.thequestion.co.
Well, yeah, and frankly, all of us do that. But actually, what you do, Jason, is you speak a language that everybody understands, which is enthusiasm.
Well, not Spanish. They don't understand me here.
Well, no, but they do understand.
You move your hands a lot, Jason. That's very important in Spain, you know.
Of course it is. CCC, vale, CCC.
Yeah. Well, by the way, there's your perfect opportunity. Bernardo's a fluent Spanish speaker. He is Spanish.
I didn't know this. Why did I not know this?
Well, there you go. This is now lesson 1. Más vale tarde que nunca.
Sí, señor. Más vale tarde que nunca, efectivamente.
Which means better late than never.
No tengo dinero, voy al banco. That's all I know. So it's dreadful, really, when you think about it. But I just can't get my head around it. But again, people say, "What do you mean you can't? There's no such thing as can't." And then you have all those guys that start to what I call the NLP. Nothing wrong with NLP. I think it's a great tool, but there's a difference. What I think you have NLP, and then you have NLPers. There's a small minority that don't really understand the fundamental tool learning, which is all it is, right? Oh yeah, I'll get that. That makes sense to me. That doesn't. I'll move on. Da 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 da. And then you've got the NLPers that they're almost like invasion of the NLP snatchers that don't veer from the language at all. You know, and you say to them, oh, well, that's no problem. Oh, you mean no challenge? No, I don't. I said, no, what I mean is, it's okay to say the word problem every now and then. It's all right, you know, it's okay.
Jason, I call that being NLP'd on.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
Yeah, do you see? That's comedy.
Well, that's debatable, Paul, for honest.
But not as we know it.
Can I just say, I don't think I'm ever going to see you at Edinburgh Festival. I could be wrong.
I've done it before, mate.
You've done Edinburgh Festival, not as a comedian.
He is, yeah.
Paul's you see, that's what you don't know.
Paul, maybe you can help me. This is quite a bit fortuitous because one of the things that I have to do, and I was doing it this year, but Edinburgh Festival's been cancelled.
Yeah.
I was doing it this year. I was doing a one-man show at Edinburgh Festival this year. I have to do it as part of a bet. Nice. So you say that, it's no laughing matter, literally. Well, and
people would have laughed at you, Jason.
That's right. Yeah, at me. I see what you've done there. See, this is the point. You bring a bit of comedy in, everybody can get involved. And I would tell you my favourite joke, but I can't because that's not good for people. Go mad on listening to it. They go, I was listening to your podcast, Paul, and it was all very lovely and inspirational until that Juice Master guy said these words. Well, my children were listening. Anyway, so I won't. So, but yeah, so next year I need to get into a venue.
You're speaking to the right man because one of my great mates is Eddie Izzard's promoter, Mick Perrin, and he does lots of venues there and knows everything there is. So I will.
Right, we need to hook up. And by the way, is he, as in Eddie, is he hard or not? You see, that's the kind of thing you're not going to expect. Don't worry about that.
It's good. It's good, but we're going to have to work on it.
No, you're going to have to work on that. No, honestly, genuinely, this has been my goal for a long time. Not to change career or do anything else. I just want to do, it's just a one-man show. I've got the title for it.
Let me ask you, Jason, and that's pretty much on point and with the idea of this. I mean, look, I'm in the personal development world as a promoter, but, kind of a lot of the times when I talk to people, I like having a laugh. And, kind of the reason Paul and I got together to do this was we like having a laugh. We like having a bit of banter. And I just got to say, there's so many people that, I mean, look, life is tough and serious enough. And so many people, I mean, we get a lot of people that, send us messages. Oh, you did this. And you did. Listen, we put work our asses off to put an expo together. We work a year. We brought 10, 12, 14,000 people there. We had 150 speakers. And you tell me you got nothing. So we have a folder in our inbox, which is kind of like get a life folder. Because some people, seriously, they're just so wound up. It doesn't matter the personal development books they read. It doesn't matter what they get out of life. They're just simply never, ever going to be happy. But what's frightening is just they're not aware of how negative they are. They just think that complaining is going to solve it. Oh,
but you know what, but Bernardo, because you're missing the point. The very thing that makes them happy is the negativity. That's the point. They are doing what makes them happy, genuinely. So look, we all require significance of some kind. And some people get it negatively, some get it positively, as you clearly know. But there are some people that look, if you're I don't know, just say you're wearing a suit of some kind or whatever the case. I was trying to think of an analogy because I never wear a suit. But anyway, but you're wearing some clothes or whatever, anybody's wearing some clothes and you're just about to go out and then 9 people say you look amazing and one person says that color doesn't suit you. The point is you'll remember the name of the person that said that color doesn't suit you and you'll probably go and change your clothes, which is the irony of it. Anyway, you won't believe the other 9 people. And the point is, I remember the Negatron, the Dementors. We call them Dementors, by the way. We call them because Harry Potter 3. So you had these faceless characters that were 9 foot tall that guarded the prison Azkaban. And what they did, Dementors, they literally sucked the joy from life. And that's what Dementors do. And there are a lot of Dementors in the world, and they're quite powerful. My mum went out with a couple of Dementors, and they can be quite evil as well sometimes, to say the very least. But you remember their names. And I remember the ones on the retreat. We were talking about 48 people at the retreat. We've all had a great week, and one Dementor's been there all week, and guaranteed we're still talking about that Dementor in a couple of weeks later. And then we say, who else was on the retreat that week? Can't remember their names. What a disservice to the lovely people. But you can't remember them. You just remember the Dementor, and actually they've achieved their goal, Bernardo. So that's the point. So that's why you can't give them oxygen. That's why on Twitter,
very true. That's
can't give them oxygen.
True. Because at the comedy store where I played for years and we all used to work, every comic could always remember the person who had been unhappy. And you can have 500 people in the audience, and if one person shouts something or looks pissed off, you remember them. And that's what you have to remember, is there's 499 people who are very, very happy.
But guys, don't you think that the problem with a lot of these keyboard warriors, which is a word that I love, don't you think a lot of the keyboard warriors, which basically are very brave behind a keyboard, but don't you think that a lot of them, the challenges that they can give, but they can't take? Because, when I find these people, I'm happy to have a conversation, but they don't seem to take it. Or is that me?
No, I love it when you find them. Listen, sometimes I make a point. If I'm feeling a bit bored, I just go and find them. So I kid you not. So because these faceless characters, there's one that slagged off one of my books on Instagram. I'll give you an example, right? So they slagged off one of my books on Instagram, and they just in fact, they put the word bullshit over the front cover. And, but I wasn't tagged in. So this guy wasn't brave enough to tag me in. He just started slagging me off. So then somebody else said, oh, have you seen this? So I hadn't. So I got back to him on his post publicly, but just in a nice manner, just said, da-da-da-da-da. And I just said, well, you haven't read the book. I know you haven't read the book, right? So anyway, it turns out he hadn't read the book, right? So I knew he hadn't. So anyway, it inspired me to start a series called Jason on his Juice Box, which is like a soapbox, but only juicier, clearly. And it's my right to reply. So on my YouTube channel, JuiceTube, what else would it be called? But on JuiceTube, I literally I do a series called Jason on his Juice Box. And so when something angers me or something else, it just gives me my chance to just get it out. So I get on my Juice Box, I start countering his argument massively, because he actually didn't have one. So it was pretty easy. So I did the thing. Now, it's been up for quite some time, right? So he private messaged me quite a few times saying, look, okay, can you just remove that now? It's been up for a year now. Can you just remove that? No, listen, if you put yourself out there and you are willing to try and get clickbait, listen, if you're trying to make yourself look better by just tearing down somebody else's house, then I'm afraid there are consequences now. Unlike before where people didn't know where you are, I will call you out. And if it comes to it, I'll call you out. I've called people up. I've called somebody who's complaining about something once in such a ridiculous manner. It was so ridiculous. I just phoned them. I found their number. I just phoned them. They went, who's this? And I told, and they went, oh, and they said, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And you just go, no, come on, tell me, listen, this is what you wrote. I just want you to tell me that to my face. Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Just wondered. So you're right. Yeah, they tend to. I should let it go, and I do let it go most of the time. But I'm human-like.
No, but I'm the same. I'm exactly the same because kind of when you work. Look, I'm not saying that we don't get everything right all the time, and sometimes we do make mistakes. But everything we do, everything that I've done, I've always done with love, and I've always done with the best intentions. And when I see so much work and energy going into it, like i.e. writing a book or producing something, and and I'm saying to, well, why don't you write your own book? Why don't you write your own book and then put yourself out there?
Listen, let me give you an example, right? Currently, as we're recording this now, as we know, we're in the middle of COVID-19, However, so what I decided to do was I thought, you know what? Ask not what the NHS can do for you, but what we can do for the NHS. So what I decided to do was think, do you know what? I'm just going to give some key workers some juice delivered plans, right? So and some Nourish plans and stuff that we have from our juicing delivery company, and there's no such thing as a selfless good deed. I write in my Create Magic book, chapter number 2 is the Joey Tribbiani rule. So as much as we think it's a selfless good deed, if it makes us feel good, effectively, it's a knock-on effect anyway. However, I just wanted to kind of put it out there and whatever. So I did that. And I thought there's no way that you can have any negative feedback from this. I mean, people are just nominating the people they know and I gave away some retreats as well. Now these retreats are like 1,500 quid a pop. You know what I mean? I give away 4 of these things and I gave away loads of juice things, but you still had somebody who decides to find a negative about it and say, you're doing this for this reason, you're doing it for that reason, but there's no such thing as a selfless good deed, essentially. Yeah, but you can't create magic for other people without that magic coming back to you. That's just how it is. There's nothing you can do. That doesn't mean stop being nice just because that's the rule of thumb, because that's what happens. I mean, you can't help it. If the more magic you create out there, the more magic comes back to you. It's just the law. There's nothing we can do about it. It's like Joe Wicks in the UK, as we're recording this. I mean, he decided overnight to just go, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some PE lessons because all the kids are off school. So I'm going to do it on YouTube channel and this, that, and the other. Now, clearly he would have known that obviously that would boost his YouTube channel and this, that, and the other and everything else. But he was creating magic for people and the magic's going to come back to him 20-fold. There's nothing wrong with that either. But you're right. It's amazing even when you're giving something totally 100% and you're just giving it for free, somebody will find a negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we shouldn't stop anybody because I actually think that's one of the ways to get through tough times is do something for somebody else. The first thing, I had a couple of days going, oh, what's all this about? And then I thought, what can I do for somebody else? Because, as you just said, it makes you feel good. So I feel like I'm doing something for me by using some of my skill set to help somebody else. So,
and if you're gonna want to make yourself feel good anyway, you can either try and reach for some alcohol to do it, some bad food to do it, some negativity to do it, or you can do it, as you just pointed out, Paul, by doing something for someone else that actually made you feel good too. So why not?
Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. What do you do to make yourself feel good every day?
Don't go there. I can't believe you've just
cameras off.
I can't believe you just open, especially when I'm on isolation. Don't tell me that. Now, so what?
Yeah, we might have some children listening, Paul.
I know. And listen, and this is just like a Disney movie because we're not. There's adult jokes within it that actually. That's
and Bambi does die.
This is what we're saying. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And as that famous Friends episode said to Chandler, weren't you upset? How did you not, did you not get upset when Bambi died? And he went, yes, I got really tearful when the guy stopped drawing the deer. Which I think was one of my favourite lines ever. Anyway, what do I do?
How do you get joy and laughter into every day? Now, you've got JJ, your little boy. I mean, that's a great way to get joy and laughter in every day.
You say that, Paul. It's also a great way to do the opposite as well. Anybody who's got kids will tell you that as well. Listen, no one's got their honest heads on. They go, oh, well, they love it. Not all the time. No, they're not lovely all the time. No, I'm sorry. This is not the Instagram version here, you know. No.
I've got an 18-year-old teenager, so, just...
And he cost £30,000, Jason.
Yeah, he cost... Yeah, did your 18-year-old cost 30 grand? But we've got a good...
And he's still little.
End, I'll tell you.
Honestly, I had acid reflux and colic for the first 10 months. It's like people say, oh, but you must love him. No, I don't. I don't love this. I don't love anything about this. I think and my theory is most men don't particularly like really small baby children, but they love toddlers. But most people don't admit it. And I wouldn't ever do that on a podcast. Oh, damn, I've done it. So anyway, but here's like you said, you got a little JJ. Obviously, you got my Katie, obviously, she's amazing in times like this. And we've been together 16 years, but she's a different human on earth. I mean, I've
never met anybody that tolerant, to be honest with you.
No.
What do you mean? I don't know how. I think because I go away a lot is the only...
That helps.
But the thing that I like, listen, you say, what do I do and I've done this, and listen, this is... this is going to sound so uninspiring, so podcast-esque, in terms of self-development. I watch Friends every day, right? Let me tell you this now. I either watch an episode of Friends, an episode of The Office, an episode of Life's Too Short. It's either a Gervais or it's Friends. Friends being the best, obviously.
Who's your favourite in Friends?
No, you can't. Depends on the series.
I know. No,
it depends on the series.
We've all gone through this, but
but I think all the best episodes, when you analyse it, all the best episodes have Ross in them. And so I think, they all have all of them in, but Ross is the main character. So if you think about the leather trouser, Ross. Yes. The teeth, Ross. The smelling the gas and flirting, yes. Ross. The tan, Ross. So when my specialised subject, Friends.
Paul, by the way, Jason, is Rachel.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, is Rachel, or that's his favourite person? But listen, what I'm saying is, I personally watch Friends every day. I have done every single night for the last, 20 years, whatever it is. I like it. It's my go-to. It's my default. It's one of those. It's just it's a little happy place that I go to. But the main thing really that changes my state, as corny as I even using that terminology, but the thing that changes that is exercise. Now, I'm in Spain. We're not allowed to exercise. And don't get me started on that either. It's utter madness, but we're not even allowed outside to exercise, even social distancing. There's no logic behind it. But anyway, I'm not allowed.
No logic at all.
Lucky enough, I've got a spinning bike. I'm really blessed. So I've got a spinning bike. So that is my best friend every day. Hour and a half, music. See, music, you can't be... I say you turn off the television, go do something less boring instead, which was a program called Why Don't You in the UK from the late 70s. And it's just, you put music on, everything changes. Your workout changes. I can be watching television like a Netflix series while I'm on my spinning bike. And then I tell you, the amount of exercise that I end up doing in terms of the length of distance that I do and everything else, and the hardness of it. So much. As soon as you put music on, whole thing is a whole different ballgame. Then I've got my mini trampoline. So exercise and in fact, I've got to do 3 things. So I'll be coming to it now every day because there's no different, I suppose, in lockdown to anything else. I always have to do 3 things. I have to do my exercise, otherwise I don't feel right. So I have to do my exercise. I have to do some kind of work of some kind, although it's my hobby. And then I have to connect with either family members or friends or something else in a meaningful way. Those 3 things are the 3 things that I would do anyway. But I have to find a way of doing that. What do you do to make yourself feel happy then, Paul?
To find out about my latest projects, get a free coaching lesson or download my book, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
Well, actually, exercise is number one. The other thing that I think is the connection, which you talked about with family and friends. I think that's incredibly important. And what I like to do is and I'll put you on the list as well, is just like, share things that are funny, little memes or things that are funny,
By the way, I tell you what, I know that we give the NHS an applaud every 8 o'clock every Thursday in the UK, and rightly so. But can we start one on a Friday night, 8, for people that put together these memes? They are genius. They are some of the funniest things I have ever seen. Yeah. They are just genius. I'm crying with so many of them. And you think these people are going out their way. They're doing it free of charge. They're somehow putting these things together. And they're just putting them online free of charge. They're often not being credited for it. In fact, do you find this as well? You probably do, guys, is that, why do we do this? Maybe it's just me, first time I'm voicing this, but this is how I feel. Why do we feel that when we pass something on that we haven't done, right? We haven't had anything to do with the creation of this at all, but we get the credit for it. So what happens is your friend will then go back, oh, that's hilarious. And you feel good about it. You go, yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, it is.
You've created the state change, haven't you, really?
Well, I suppose you have, or somebody else saying to you as you're driving your car, go, oh, I love your car. Oh, thank you very much. Well, I didn't make it, did I? And you know what?
I do that all the time. Anytime there's anything going around, I say you're welcome. I just take credit
you're
for
welcome.
it. Yeah.
I call it the DJ scenario. I'm going to get hammered by I don't get DJs. I might as well put the confession out there. I don't get them. I don't understand them. I don't get them. I don't understand the adoration for DJs. I don't get it, right? You're playing some music, dude. It's not yours. It's not your music. It's not your music. Oh, sorry, dude and dudess. Sorry.
But Jason, they do have to sit at home and put a playlist together and then press play when they're at a nightclub. That's hard,
Look, when they're at a nightclub and they're on this kind of altar, I remember Fatboy Slim years ago going down Brighton Beach, and he had this big thing on Brighton Beach, and everybody's staring towards the stage. There's speakers everywhere. You don't need stage. There's nobody on stage. There's a guy with some headphones on. You think just stare anywhere else, have a dance, do whatever. So the point is that the DJ gets the credit for other people's music effectively, because they go, oh man, that's brilliant. And we're all guilty of it. I played Grease Lightning at the end of my seminars, and it's a great finish. And it's a big finish, and people go, whoa, and they leave in this, and I'm thinking, I didn't even write that, did I? Didn't sing it, didn't do anything. I've just got all the benefit from that. And they think it's something I did. It's brilliant.
Paul Boross is the pitch doctor, professor of humourology and business activator. If you would be interested in booking him to speak, train your teams, or executive coach you, you can reach him by going to www.paulboross.com now.
Yeah, well, it's anchoring, isn't it? Really, it's anchoring in.
Sorry, anchor. Sorry, I nearly went to somewhere there where I nearly went to somewhere in isolation. Then I thought it was what you did. I thought it was your happy place in isolation. Anyway, moving on.
A meme I got this morning, which I think sent to Bernardo, and I'll send it to you later. There was a lady of the night leaning into a car, like they do in America, with her bottom sticking out. And she's going, for $50, I'll do whatever you want. And he's going, do you know how to cut hair?
You see that? You see, it's that. It's just genius, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
and
just
you suddenly go, everybody knows what's that like? That's like at the moment.
It's like one of my favorite jokes of all time is the simplicity of it. It was first said by Eddie Murphy in his stand-up Raw. That's how, that's so long ago now, in the late 70s, 80s. But he just, a bear and a rabbit. Well, it's okay if kids are listening. It's fine. Bear and a rabbit in the woods. The bear says to the rabbit, do you have any problems with poo sticking to your fur? The rabbit says, no. So the bear wipes his ass with the rabbit. And it's just genius. The simplicity of that joke on so many levels. But like Bernardo alluded to at the beginning of this, you said it's humour, isn't it? It's bringing humour as much as we can into what is otherwise a serious situation globally. And that's all any of us can potentially try and do. Either bring something in a comedic value to somebody musicians are bringing something in an entertainment way, with the One World concert and various other things. And other people are doing education, like Carol Vorderman, teaching maths for free online. Other people, it might be physical education. And everybody's just doing what they can, aren't they? That's all we're doing, is whatever we can to get ourselves through it. People say to get other people through it. Let's be fair. You can't. It's to get ourselves through it because it makes us feel good. That's what it is.
We're going to laugh off lockdown.
Laugh off lockdown. There you go. Say that to some of the people I know. Jesus Christ. they'll go, laugh. Do you want to come to my house?
Yeah, but
anyway,
Isn't it?
But we will laugh at it. I mean, eventually, we will come back. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that just don't believe we'll ever be in public places, in restaurants. Events will never happen again. Planes will never fly. But the fact is, we will. And
do you know what though? I always think. Don't you think at the end of this? Because I'm weirdly talking about JJ and Lutfi because I'm so much later where I am than where you are, and it's JJ's dinner time soon. So I will be heading off to the little fella. But again, it's using this opportunity, and I think most people will gain from this more than anything else, even if they don't realize it right now, is a commodity that ultimately makes us feel fulfilled, and it is the only one worth any salt anyway. And that's gratitude. And as corny as that is, I think what will happen is we'll all come out of this, all of us, no matter how wealthy that we thought we were before, not just monetary in terms of life in general, is that we won't take the things for granted for a long time. We will again. It's like a bad car crash. When you first see it, it'll slow you down. And after a while, you're back up top speed again. But for a short interim, there will be this beautiful period where all of a sudden we'll get on a plane and we won't mind being in a holding pen that EasyJet or Ryanair put us in. We'll be in that holding pen going, okay, this is all right, isn't it? Yeah. All of a sudden, we won't. All of a sudden, that won't seem like the end of the world.
3 hours delay. That's great. I love
3
it.
Hours at least I'm getting on 3 hours delay in this airport where I can chat to people. I've got restaurants open. Wow, aren't I lucky? I can go to the gym. Wow, you'd never be more grateful to get on a treadmill in your life. You'd never be more grateful to just see, people going, should we do an online quiz? I've got a better idea. Should we meet down the pub and do a quiz? Oh my God! And you'd be all of a sudden.
How long, Jason, until we all go, what, I've got the middle seat on the plane?
Honestly, it won't. Well, that'll never happen to me. I refuse to get on a plane. Listen, you're just, if you're telling that to me, Paul, you're not organising your life well enough. I mean, if you end up in a middle seat on an aeroplane or something like EasyJet or Ryanair, then you've done something drastically wrong. I don't know. That's all.
You deserve it, Paul.
You deserve it. It's as simple as that. By the way, on that note, let's be fair, right? Rule number one, and I want this campaign. Paul, maybe you can lead it. Bernardo can lead it. I haven't got time. Probably you haven't either. But I want all airlines to announce over the tannoy very clearly that if you have a window seat, the armrest to your left is yours. If you have an aisle seat, the armrest to your right is yours. If you have a middle seat, both armrests are yours. They're yours. You've got nowhere to lean. So therefore, you have the luxury. Those belong to you. You don't go over them. You don't go over the jurisdiction. But they belong to you. And if it's said by the airlines, there'd be a lot of air rage that wouldn't happen. The other thing is, don't put your seat back on a 2-hour flight. If you're in front of me and you put your seat back behind, I will put my knee against it and I never allow you to put it down. That is genuinely happening in my world. You don't know this, Neil. You think the seat's broken. I can see you doing it before you've done it, trying to do it, and I'm there, and I have intervention move. I have an intervention. It's called my knee, and you'll try and put it down for 5 minutes, then you'll forget about it, and then I can take my knee off, and job is done.
After lockdown, you'll be grateful for that person lying in your lap.
That's the one thing I won't be.
I can't wait to fly with Jason. Jason. And on that bombshell, listen, I want to thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your great work. And
thanks, man. I've had a blast. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Bernardo. Yeah, it's been a giggle. I think most of it for me has been career ending.
No, we've laughed. We've laughed.
I think other than that, listen, it was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, I just don't want to be the rabbit. Okay.
No. On that bombshell, thank you. Let's do a Steve Wright clap, everyone, together. Let's do a clap together. Let's do a Steve Wright clap in the afternoon. Let's do a Steve Wright. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Jason. Cheers. And Paul, thank you so much. Well done. Paul. Thank you, Paul. You didn't let me down. Well done. And thank you, everyone here listening today from one of our many episodes from Isolation to Inspiration. So, Paul, any kind of final words?
Well, it was just wonderful to have Jason on because he really is an inspiration. And so it's so great when you have somebody with that much enthusiasm. And I think, we're all in different places, and his enthusiasm actually just gets to you wherever you are. So wherever you're listening to us, take a little bit of Jason's enthusiasm and use it in your own life and start to laugh off lockdown.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening from Isolation to Inspiration. If you're interested in working with me or being coached by me or mentored, you can go to my webpage, www.bernardo-moya.com. If you're interested in speaking at the Best You Expo, getting involved in the Best You Online or the Best You TV, please go to www.thebestyou.co.